This video is gonna be so painful for people that actually know how to weld.
There it is! My first weld.
Can someone learn how to weld in 1 week, having zero prior experience, teaching themselves from YouTube? That's what we're gonna attempt to do in this video, for better or for worse, because that van behind me has a repair I need to do inside where it was rusting apart. We need to put a patch on the floor. And the reason why I need to do it in a week is because we need to keep going with our van build. I can't delay any longer. We need to get it done.
Over the last 4 years, I've been making adventure films out of my Sprinter van. Now, together with my wife Janelle, we are finally giving our van the build out it deserves.
So step one, I needed a welder. So I went to arguably one of the worst places to buy a welder, Canadian Tire, found one on sale, took a picture of it, sent it to my friend who's a welder. He said, yep, that one looks fine. I bought it, I had a welder. So boom, we're basically halfway done the video, right? We could probably break early for lunch. No, I gotta learn how to use a welder apparently. Basically the only skill set that I had that was anywhere close to welding was using a hot glue gun. And I take my hot glue gunning very seriously. So step two, I went home, took the welder out of the box, went to plug it into the wall so I could start welding, and the plugs didn't match. So after a quick trip to Home Depot, I had various different cable parts, and after calling my cousin who's an electrician, after 15 minutes, he helped me figure out which of the 4 cables I could make into 3 cables so that way the wires all lined up and I wouldn't die.
So if the 2 are hot, is that, like, what does that mean? So ta-da, that's what, and then over there on the wall, 4-prong bullshit.
So step 3, for the first time in my life, I read a manual front to back because welding feels like you could potentially kill yourself, so it's worth doing.
How do you put a battery in?
So after reading the manual, I watched a ton of different YouTube videos, like various different sections of 20-minute videos from all over YouTube, and I started building up the confidence to know I'm ready to unleash that inner welding goddess that I just know is inside of me.
Getting ready to attempt my first weld. I'm so stoked.
So step 4, I turned on the welder for real this time, got psyched, and did my first weld.
Woo-hoo-hoo! That was sweet. There's my first weld, baby! There it is!
Seeing as we're now both in the future, now would seem like an appropriate time to point out a few of the billion things I'm doing wrong here, like welding in my studio around all my expensive camera gear and all of these flammable things. But I should get some bonus points for having a fire extinguisher nearby, points which I immediately lose for basically eating the smoke. Seriously, just, am I trying to kill myself or what am I doing here? I'm glad I lived through all those early mistakes and the mistakes I continued to make as I fumbled through trying to teach myself this very precise craft that is also potentially very dangerous to my health. But step 5, we're now into day 2, and I had a welder, so I was trying to use every spare moment to learn how to actually use this thing, laying as many welds as I possibly could. And that's where I realized one of the most difficult things about actually learning this without someone there to be guiding me along is diagnosing the problems with my current welds.
I'm basically an artist now, so if you'd like to buy this sculpture, you can sign up for the auction.
So I just didn't have the knowledge to know. I knew the weld wasn't good, but I didn't know what factors I could change on my technique or the welder itself that would actually start to get me the results that I was hoping for in this bar that I had set. The first project I made was this headphone stand. It's it exists. It's a thing. It's a physical thing that I made. And that's about all there's worth saying about this. So this is the first thing I made. So on day 4 of my welding experience, it was now time to actually use the welding on a critical project. Thankfully, this wasn't a structural project, but it was one that I didn't want to mess up. And that was, we had these holes all in the cockpit of our van that rust had created, and I needed to seal them up.
Disclaimer, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Janelle is home from work and she's helping me finish up last coats of paint, or the first coats. It's been a long day.
I would say that project went about 5.5, 6 out of 10. It was good enough to be a patch, I think.
Yo, you ready to keep filming here?
Yeah, I'm just leaving a comment on this video actually real quick. Should I read it to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been a professional welder for 20 years. You call this weld? And I want to say at this point in the video, I want to just say a huge thanks to Doug at SV Seeker. He's a fellow YouTuber who's building a steel boat in his yard. He's one of the biggest influencers in my welding desire to actually jump into it and feel like I could. I feel like most of the welders I've met in my life, when I try to understand, hey, is this something I could learn as well? It seems very mysterious and they aren't really willing to share what it would take to get started. And they kind of make it seem like, oh, you should just let the professionals do it. But I wanted to figure out, could I do hobbyist welding myself? I'm not trying to do structural welding on buildings. I'm just trying to tinker in the driveway. Some other YouTubers I'm grateful for their videos are Jimmy DiResta. I've been watching his videos for years now, and I just really appreciate his attitude towards building and making things. Bob from I Like to Make Stuff was very encouraging when I said that I was gonna try learn welding, so thanks to people like that. And since getting into this whole thing, I've found some other channels, AVE, so I would recommend going and checking out some of his videos because, again, I'm not anywhere qualified to be able to share any helpful information on how to actually do good welding, but I can share my experience. So the title of this video, can you figure out how to weld in a week? The answer is sort of, because the project that I finished off with in this first week of welding was the first one that I felt like, okay, that was actually what welding should maybe look like.
We're about a week into my journey of trying to learn how to weld, and I'm having seriously so much fun. So I already went and got a tank. I was using flux core before, but now I'm using gas. I'm not sure what gas MIG, I don't know. Someone in the comments tell me what kind of welding that is. I'm using my MIG welder with gas to weld things. And I noticed that I really need a place to be able to work on some of the welding projects as I'm trying to develop my skills so that way we can move forward on the van. The main goal is to just have a table I can move around, but then also set things up on so I can grind on them, weld on them, and kind of just clamp things to the table and have a place to work.
I have incredible respect for professional welders, people that are welding on pipelines, structural welding, doing fabricating as their profession, and I'm just blown away by the level of skill that those people have and the amount of knowledge and years of experience and apprenticeships that all take to get to that level. And I just knew right from the beginning that I wasn't trying to get anywhere near what those people are capable of pulling off. I just wanted to get to the level of like a hobbyist that could attach things together and they would hold most of the time. So I was actually tackling the learning of welding over most of the winter. So we're now about month 3, I think, month 3 or 4 of my welding journey. And I'm seriously having so much fun. So throughout the entire winter, I was trying to take as many editing breaks as I could to go practice my welding. Through this time, I made a temporary grill guard for the front of this van. I made this really wacky fondue stand for my wife's birthday, mainly just kind of as a joke. I made some shelves for the stairwell here at our house. And I will say, once I started to work on this skill set, it allowed me to see projects in an entirely different light, because for most of my making and building things experience in my life so far, I've always been limited by not being able to use metal by welding it together, which is actually very, very helpful for more projects than just working on something like my van. I made this cart out of aluminum to carry my gas bottles. I made this stool just to see if I could make a stool out of aluminum. I wish I had started doing this earlier, and now I'm pumped that as we actually get into the building of our van, I hope I can make some things that are gonna be very helpful and put that welder to good use. So I'm so grateful that I've started to learn. This is something that I wish I had started earlier, but now I'm glad that I stopped making excuses and just jumped headfirst into this thing. And I'll tell you, getting to watch back some of the welding footage and even see other people weld now, I'm starting to understand how many mistakes I was making at the beginning. And I really do need to take safety as a way higher priority when I'm grinding, when I'm welding, careful of what I'm breathing into my lungs. I'm trying to break some of my bad habits where I'm just basically eating smoke. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed getting a peek into my welding journey as I just jumped headfirst. It was so much fun being a beginner, and how I learned filmmaking and how I try to learn everything in my life is just throw myself at it and ask so many questions from anybody who's willing to share with me their experience. So a lot more is coming. That's gonna be it for this one. Remember, life's better when you make stuff. Peace. You can buy gloves. I put stickers on the face mask pretty straight away, because most of the welders that I see that look like they know what they're doing have some stickers on their face mask. That's probably not true at all.
Tracy, and then Tracy got lost, and I saw Tracy pass the road. So I'm doing to me, you know, at the